Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Another quick game of Interplanetary I Spy going on Gale Crater here. And this is part 2 of Mars Alien Marina. Now, if you haven't already seen this, Mars Alien Marina Multiple Shipwrecks Part 1, I recommend you do. I haven't published it yet, this is still private on here, so it's only got a couple of views where I've tested it. It will be up later, and obviously this Part 2 would be up a couple of days after that, so that will give you a couple of days to get round to watching this. And when you see this, of course, you will realise that there are multiple boats and ships in at the bottom of Mount Sharp here, and this is the main one. I'll let that play through a little bit, just in case you haven't seen this already. This will give you a taster. There's the enhancement. There we go. There's a big cruiser-like vessel at the back of this image, and at the bottom of the image, there's what looks like a collapsed crane or some kind of other mechanical tubing or piping here, and multiple structures and wreckage and all sorts of things in this video. And today's video is carrying on from where we left off in that one, and I'll just give you a brief overview on the Gigapan, which is Sol 323. The previous video covers this area from here, about here to about here. Okay, so those three images there. Okay, now today's video carries on from there, from that section, and go where you've got this long ridge. It starts at this ridge and then goes across 1, 2, 3 to about here. Okay, so we're doing the next three at the top here. Okay, those three. We've got all this white stuff in the background here. Okay, now I won't spend too long on this. I'll try and keep this succinct if I can. There's quite a lot to show here, and I'll show you most of it first in the Gigapan, just to let you know where we're looking and what we're looking at. And so we start here by this long ridge. We start on the end of that, and we've got some crazy stuff in here. And when I first started looking at this image a year or two ago, I was absolutely flabbergasted, and I really couldn't get my head around it. There is so much in here, it's almost impossible to actually work out what's in front of, what's in front, what's behind, what's joined. You know, there's so much overlapping material here, and a lot of this bright light coloured stuff here is not rock. It's very different from the sand or the water colour here. Now, we've been told for years that this is just sand, and it just happens to look a bit like water. Well, I really do wonder, because if you look at it carefully, when you start enhancing this so-called sand, it does have reflections in it. So it may well be wet sand. It may not be water as such, but it could be wet, especially when the sun comes up and melts the ice. Because this, obviously, the condensation will freeze, and then when the sun comes up and warms up in the morning and afternoon, a lot of this would defrost and melt. So a lot of this stuff, especially here, was really weird. And you've got the famous Mars S here, just there. And there looks like a weird kind of structure here that's kind of hollowed out with something inside it. Now, some of this occurred to me, it may be broken or collapsed lava tubes. That could be one explanation for some of it, but not all of it, because when you see what I've done to some of this, and there is this thing up here, there's all this really white stuff here, and then you go up to here, and then there looks to be a boat here, which I did preview briefly in the last video, just here, like a ship of some sort, and possibly a little smaller structure or another boat in front of it here. So right, let's crack on with it. We've seen enough of that. Sol 323, I'll have links to these individual images as well from the actual NASA page, the JPL site here. Okay, so I'll have links to these, and there's a whole set of them. You can see the ones with the possible water in them. There's loads of them. So let's get on with that. And what I've done is I've done the same as I did last time. I've stitched together some of the raw images and made my own little mini Gigapan. But I won't go through all of it because it would take too long. I'll just show you what I'm up to now, and I've darkened this a bit, and I've been working on the shadows. Now, when you have such bright material as this in the foreground here, or in the middle ground, now this looks a little more of a creamier colour than it does in the Gigapan, because I haven't white balanced it so hard. I've only sort of gone halfway with the colour to restore it to what I think looks more natural. So what I've done is gone around and enhanced some of these dark shadowy bits. Now all I've done is use the light and darken tool, and where you've got to say a dark part like here, I just go over that and darken it a bit more. Okay. Now what that does, it helps bring out the overall shapes of the topography and possible objects on the ground. And you've got very reflective, light looking things like this thing up here. So what I'll do is just go over that with the lighten tool, lighten that bit, and then darken the shadow. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not adding detail that isn't there. There are details in here already. As you can see, there's lots of weird material, and there's lots of kind of screwed up and twisted structures in here, and I really don't know what they are, a lot of them. Some of them look mechanical, like here. Some of them, a lot of it looks sort of natural, but there's weird sort of things kind of stacked up. Oh, wrong thing there, hang on. Let's lighten that a bit. There's weird things stacked up on top of each other here, and there's some very odd details. And some of these things are, I'm sure, are ships and boats. Not all of it. A lot of this may be natural, a lot of this may be just debris. If there was a tsunami, a lot of this stuff could have slipped down the mountain. There could have been a landslide. There's all sorts of crap in here. But there are some very boat-like shapes in here, especially here. We have a large boat-shaped structure. It may not be a boat, of course. It could be something else. And here, we have a very reflective boat-like structure with a sort of dome-like cabin on it or something. That could be a building, could be a boat, could be something, it could be a submarine. Who knows? It doesn't look natural, and there's lots of these things kind of half buried along here, and there's this very odd detail here, these round objects sticking out of this stuff here, which looks like kind of just a load of crap, kind of that probably got washed into the bottom of the mountain there. But there are some definite structures in here. So, like I always do, I will put my later enhancements at the end of the video so you can see more detail, and I won't have loads and loads in a row. I'll just pick out the sort of later ones that show it more clearly, because really if you look at this as a raw image, you really aren't going to see very much at all. I've got some of the raw images here, or have I? No. No, I don't actually have them in here. Let's go back to this one here, and that one, there we go. This is from the other video, but you can see how poor and unclear these images are. They really are very vague and muddy, and you can't see a great deal of detail. There is detail here, but it is very obscured, and you've really got to pump up the contrast and clean up these images before you see anything. So it's almost not even worth looking at them. But you can see structures in here, and there's that ship that I showed you last time in the previous video. So it really is a question of going in and trying to make the images more viewable. And there are multiple structures in here, especially along the back here. There are, a lot of it's quite vague. This is quite a way off from the Rover, and I don't think the camera's actually focused on the area very well. But there are structures down here. There's a really odd thing here, which is sort of hexagonal shaped, just here. And I don't know what the hell that is. It really is very, very strange. And it's on the end of a sort of kind of long structure coming out here. And there's a very, very reflective and almost transparent load of stuff here, which is very strange. I don't know what that is. It doesn't look natural. There's something going on there, and I can't quite work out what it is. It's almost like it's been blurred out, because I mean, I've darkened this a bit. I haven't gone crazy with it, but it kind of looks transparent. It's very strange, and you do get this a lot with these images where they're poorly. The image information and the color information is poorly overlaid on top of the black and white images. When they compile the color in the images, they don't line them up very well, so you get this kind of blurry transparency to them, which kind of ruins them really. But there's something here like a jetty or something, like a little pier. You can't see any real tight detail there. It's very mucky, really mucky. This whole area is very mucky indeed, but there is something there, and that you can see upright struts in there. And a lot of this stuff you can see reflections of here. So this looks like water or wet sand. And there's a very straight structure here, something going on there. There's all sorts of stuff. And some of these bright looking boat shaped objects here. Now that's the image stitched there, I've stitched it together. There's a whole row of these things. They look like little canoes or boats, or there's a little cabin, like a little cabin cruiser boat type thing there with windows. But it's vague. This is quite a long way off, so I can't promise that I'm going to get tons of detail out of this. But there are some crazy larger structures in here, like here, which looks like some very large thing that's kind of slumped over. I don't know what that is, whether it's a boat or a building or some kind of structure that's damaged. And there's multiple things in here, but it's very vague, and it's not really, there's not really much point in trying to enhance all this background stuff because it's so mucky. You're better off looking at the stuff closer up or larger. And there is something larger at this end. You can see some little structures here, and all you do is go in and brighten and darken it a little bit here and there, and it starts to bring out some of the shapes like this. If you go in the darken tool, darken the shadows like that, and you can start to bring out the shapes of some of these structures in the background. Now, I'm not saying all these are intelligent structures, but some of them certainly do look it. What that is, I don't know. Is it a building? Is it another boat or ship that's crashed or slumped down the side of here and fallen and kind of listed over? I don't know. It looks a bit like a wreck, but there are some interesting things here, and it looks like to be a slipway type ramp here, and there's definitely something going on here. There's like a load of little windows or something going along here in the background. And this was my favourite part. This was what looks like a very modern looking ship, almost space age looking, and this is the one I previewed in the previous video, in part 1. And I've just gone in carefully and darkened some of the dark bits and lightened some of the light bits, and that's all I've done. I've just accentuated the light and shadow so that you can see the actual shape. I've darkened it around the outside a bit to make it stand out. But I will do a bit more work on all of this before it goes in the end of the video, because there's a lot to see here. But a lot of this is natural. I'm not saying all of these are boats, I'm not saying all of these are intelligent structures, but some of these things don't look natural to me. They look like they've been built, and they look too symmetrical and too intelligent in design to actually be natural. There's something here like a boat or some kind of boat-shaped structure here as well. You can just about make out these shadows here. So it does help if you sit back a little bit and then you just sort of darken gently the shadows, and then you can start to see these shapes pop out like there. So I will enhance that a bit more. This looked fairly interesting up here and here, so I'll have clips of all this. And this was really weird over here. There's some kind of structure here hidden in this crap here, which is obviously largely buried, but may have been obfuscated as well by JPL, because you can see uprights here, upright structures. There's some of those maybe compression marks, but I don't think they all are. There's something here as well. Don't know what that looks kind of like another one of those little jetty type ramp things. So I really do think this whole area was like a huge marina or dock area, as I've said before and in the previous video. And there are loads of these crazy structures in here, but because it's all kind of the same colour, it kind of puts you off even trying to enhance it. There's something here, like a small boat or structure, which is totally way more reflective than the surrounding material. So there's definitely something here, and once you start picking out these shadows, it comes to life, and you can actually start to determine that a lot of this stuff is not natural at all. I mean, this is just the natural sand and rock in the foreground here, and this is what used to be a lake bed, so why wouldn't there be a marina there, you know? It still looks like a marina. All we got to do is enhance the image slightly and it all pops out. And you can even see all that in the gigaplan. You don't even have to enhance any of this stuff. if I just show you a clip of the general area we're just doing now, we got that boat up here. I mean, this has just been basically white balanced and cleaned up a bit. And you can see there's a ship-like structure here. There's all sorts of interesting straight, and boat shape structures up here. There's that boat type thing there. Just about make out a boat there. There's all sorts in here, but it's so white and reflective, it kind of puts you off even looking at it. See, this thing here has got to be some kind of intelligent structure, surely. There's loads of stuff in here. So, thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you soon.